Welcome everyone. We're going to be doing another video on focusing on your self-improvement, self-development, and everything. Today we're going to be talking about quantifying your dopamine and its triggers. And we'll get more into that right now. Alright, so first things first is we need to basically define what we're going to be talking about and stuff. What is dopamine? So I looked up a definition by Psychology Today and stuff. This is just a textbook definition of it. So it's dopamine is known as a feel-good neurotransmitter, a chemical that ferries information between neurons. The brain releases it when we eat food that we crave or while we have sex, contributing to feelings of pleasure and satisfaction as part of the reward system. This important neurochemical boosts mood, motivation, and attention, and helps regulate movement, learning, and emotional responses. So then, for people that are listening to this and stuff and not watching, I just kind of did it, explain like I'm five short term of that, and the way I put it was it's a feel-good chemical in your brain when doing certain things and can vary to different levels depending on the occurring event. Basically, just whenever you do something, it releases a different amount of dopamine that's happening in your brain when you commit to a certain task or whatever, depending on what it is and depending on how good of a thing it was that's happening, whether or not it's voluntary for you to react to it or not. So, and we'll go into detail in here later and stuff about that. So anyway, for the mission of this presentation or audio thing you're listening to, or however you're listening to this, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be identifying the highest and lowest sources of your dopamine. This is mainly going to be from my personal experience and stuff, because it's going to vary from person to person what is kind of like the highest trigger for you to source from where you're getting your dopamine and everything. And we're going to be identifying what is a healthy and what is not a healthy source for you. So there could be certain vices that you're committing to that are really good, that make you feel really good, but they're not healthy for you in the long term or something like that. And it can be vice versa. There could be things that you're not doing that could be really good for you to be doing and stuff. Not the simple act of the thing, the action that's happening, but the chemical that the dopamine that would be released in your brain if you were to commit to that act. So I was originally going to do this in a tier list form, and I still am, but I was going to do it on Tier Maker, but they needed me to make a Twitter, and that ain't happening, so I'm going to commit to it just right here. So we'll go about it. I basically just did the same thing. We're going to go from S to about C tier. Since dopamine is a feel-good chemical, there's not really anything that's going to be in a really bad tier. It's just, like I say here, the higher tiers are going to be, tend to be easier things, easier tasks that you can do that will have the max amount of effort, or not max amount of effort, but the minimum amount of effort to reach the highest amount of dopamine release in your brain and everything, and so on and so forth. The lower tiers tend to be things that can have a high release of dopamine. They might have less amounts of it too, depending on what the task, event, or whatever you're committing to is and everything. But it takes more effort into getting to that release of dopamine and stuff. And after reading this and everything, I have a conclusion on this, but I put it here too, is to consider a reset or a dopamine detox. So what that is basically where you kind of have identified a lot of the triggers and everything that's happening for you to release dopamine, and it's where you completely, or at least to a certain extent, cut out those sources of those dopamine triggers in your brain. And so what I've seen from people is where they just spend a whole day, they don't eat anything. It's basically like a fast where you kind of don't commit to doing anything for 24 hours. So The most extreme example could be you can only drink water, you can't talk to anybody, you can't commit to anything, you can only wake up and walk around, and that's about it. That's in the most extreme example. Obviously, you don't have to do that, but it's something to consider if you find that you are not satisfied with the sources of dopamine or the triggers that are causing it and stuff like that. So anyway, now we're going to go into the list, and again, this is going to be a list of things that I personally identify as being the highest versus lowest amounts of dopamine triggers and everything. A lot of these are going to be obviously relatable things and stuff like that, but some of them might fall differently on your list or your ranking and stuff. But for the most part, I tried to pick just general things that most people are going to be dealing with or deal with on a regular basis. So anyway, let's get to it. All right. So in the S tier, it's going to be things that are super easy to accomplish with little effort, and it's going to probably have maximum amount of release or feel-good hormones that are going to be happening in your head. So if you're not watching this and you're just listening to this, this is what I've got here. So I've got playing video games, eating high sugar, high fat foods and stuff like that, being on your phone, sweet sort of drinks like coffee, like I'm drinking some right now. So there's that. Fast food. I've got a picture of fries there. So really just quick food and stuff like that that you aren't really investing in. Going on YouTube, that's a big thing. Watching porn, committing to sex, yeah. So, and then I'll go into a little bit these in detail. So, porn and or sex is basically going to be the highest amount of dopamine release that you're going to get in your brain, because we as humans are literally designed to procreate, and so basically, when we feel like we're passing on our genetics to the next generation and stuff like that, that's what our initial mission is to accomplish, just to survive as a race and stuff like that. So that's why our brain rewards us with committing to that certain action, whether or not we're mimicking it through porn or something like that. It is irrelevant. It's because our brain is tricked into thinking we're committing to that action, so therefore we're being released into that. And so this is where we can get unhealthy forms of addiction to that dopamine, because it's such a good feel-good chemical that we want to keep releasing. We remember that event that associated with that feel-good vibe, and so we want to recreate that multiple times over. And that's definitely the case with eating sugar, like high sugar, high fat, high sodium foods and stuff like that. It might be to a different degree for yourself, but for me personally, like when I drink soda, when I drink my coffee, which I'm drinking right now, got tons of creamer in it. I feel really good after I drink it and stuff. And it's something I'm admitting. I'm gonna humiliate myself and admit that, yeah, there's something. And other stuff like watching YouTube, it's very easy to do. It's very low effort. I don't have to do much besides just grab my phone and this is partially due to how it's formatted on the website and the app. It's meant to keep you addicted and everything, but it's instantly gratifying. It's something that's super simple to do. Same with video games. I might pull video games a little bit farther down, because you just have to actually do something with it a little bit more, and because you're actually committing to something. So it can depend on what you're playing, but I still put it in the S tier because I figured that was an easy thing that's very low effort, because you don't go into there with any sort of like resistance to wanting to do it. This is stuff that very much like the only reason you would resist it is because it's a certain action that's not good for you. And I don't have anything here that tends to be anything that's really good for me. Unless it was in a controlled manner. So instead of approaching it from an instant gratification format, I would approach it from a delayed gratification sense of it. So let's say I said, okay, I'm not going to eat any high sugar foods, or I'm not going to go eat out or something like that for like a whole week or 2 weeks or whatever. And then it felt like it was a very good reward for me, because then I was committing. There was something I was committing to by delaying that gratification. So therefore, it's more rewarding. It just depends on what that's going to be for you. But anyway, so this is basically the easy stuff. It tends to be all the bad stuff for you. But yeah. Anyway, so now we're going to go to the A tier. Now you'll start to find more stuff that tends to be a little bit better for you, because there's a little bit effort that's involved in this. So things like taking a shower, shaving, putting on nice clothes, listening to music, hanging out with your pet or whatever, getting social media feedback, and then watching TV, watching a movie, something like that. Those are things I felt like were very low effort. It takes a little bit of work to accomplish these things. Like, I have to go out of my way to go to the shower. I have to go out of my way, like, because there's days where, and I'm sure many people can attest to this, where they really don't want to get up and put on clothes. They don't want to have to shave. I know I certainly don't. I've got a good peach fuzz like going right now, but plenty of days where I don't want to take a shower and stuff. I'm just not feeling it. But they're definitely things that when I do them, I feel very good about afterwards. I feel a lot better about it. Listening to music. That's a very big personal one for me. I just think that there's certain music that I might not want to listen to at the time. So it just depends what kind of mood I'm in and everything. So these are definitely things that I would recommend if you're trying to replace some of the negative dopamine triggers and stuff. That I would recommend, going after these things first. Maybe not so much the social media thing, but I put this here because it takes a little bit effort, because if you're going to make a post about something, then you have to have it be successful with people and so that they like it and everything. So I thought that was, it takes a little bit of effort to do that, but I wouldn't consider it a positive dopamine release and everything. So anyway, put it there. And then watching TV. You could make an argument for that being in the S tier. That's not really that hard. It's about the same level as video games, but I tend to find it's a little bit more difficult for me to watch TV personally. It takes me a little bit of effort to kind of figure out what I want to watch and stuff, and if I'm not interested in watching something, then I'll obviously just skip out on it and stuff. But yeah, same thing with dressing up nice. It takes a little bit of effort, but I do definitely feel good when I put on a nice thing of clothing and everything. And, maybe that's also, putting on makeup or, just doing something with your skincare and everything. And then hanging out with a pet or something. I tend to find that's pretty good with my cat. When we hang out outside and go for a walk, that's pretty simple of a thing to do. Don't even have to, shave or anything to do that. They don't care. At least the pet that I have doesn't care. But yeah, that's A tier. So B tier is going to be, obviously, there's going to be more work involved. Like I said before, while the S tier of dopamine triggers tends to be the highest amount of dopamine, that doesn't mean that, because there's a good balance, because there can be things that you're doing where the amount of effort that you're putting into them actually increases the amount of dopamine in your brain, because you feel more accomplished by doing the task or taking more work to do that task. It just depends, though. It depends on the scenario. So anyway, these are my examples I've got here. These tend to be more so the case that I tend to find that are more of the gratifying things. Again, what I've got here is going for runs, going for a walk, playing guitar, sitting by a fireplace, cooking, eating something healthy like a salad, cleaning your room, playing soccer, and socializing. I tend to be more introverted than extroverted, so socializing is kind of weird for me, so I put it lower, so it's a little bit more of an effort to do it. But when I obviously after I've hung out with friends, I feel a little bit better about myself. But yeah, again, these are things that I tend to put here and value in this area, because committing to going for a walk or going even for a run, it's not the easiest task. I've had plenty of times where I really do not want to go for a run, but I can attest to, and I'm sure a lot of people who say will say the same thing, where they feel instantly better afterwards after having done the run when they push themselves to complete that task or whatever. Same thing with playing guitar. I am not very good at playing guitar and everything. I've gone through stints of absence in my guitar playing where I would just skip a few days, if not weeks, not weeks, but like I would go up to like a week or so without playing, and um, because I just didn't want to do it. But then I think as soon as I committed to it, I felt a lot better because I was doing something that I actually enjoyed. I'm a more music oriented person, and I enjoyed it even though I might suck at it. So yeah. Same thing with eating healthy. I think that goes kind of in line with cooking and everything. There's more effort that's involved, obviously, with your cooking, depending on what it is. But I feel I feel good about when I complete a dish and it all comes together, and then I feel double good about if that dish is a healthy dish. So I feel extremely good about myself when I've made something at home from scratch, and I've it's something that's going to be good for me in the long term. It's going to make me feel good afterwards. It doesn't have a lot of high sugar, high fat, or whatever. Sitting by a fireplace, I've got one here at my home. I tend to just like the aesthetic of it, and there will be mornings where I just wake up and all I want to do is like sip. It's like the picture here where I'm just going to be sipping coffee or tea or whatnot, and I just have a good enjoyment out of it. I just think it's nice. Cleaning my room, same thing. I definitely feel really good at ease afterwards. I feel like I have more clarity when I can clean my room, or after I clean my room. And I can look at it right now and just be like, oh, okay, I'd feel a little bit better if I, picked up a few things here, and then I don't have to really mentally focus on this anymore and stuff. And so, yeah. And then soccer is probably my sport that I like to play the most. And so whenever I get a chance to go out and maybe just juggle a soccer ball, I tend to feel a little bit better, even if it's for 10 minutes or so, like that. It's just good to know that I'm still honing those skills and everything. And I would have put skateboarding here too. I just forgot about it. But yeah, these are things that they take a little bit more effort to do. But I would think that they definitely have a healthier. I would admit that these are all healthy habits and stuff like that, because I tend to feel like the healthier habits that you commit to, or the healthier dopamine triggers, tend to be the things that require a little bit of work out of you, because there's satisfaction through going through the work itself rather than really the end goal and everything, that makes it such a high release of dopamine in your brain. So anyway, that's about that. And so now finally we're going to get into just the last tier, the C tier. This is basically just those very long-winded, just not extreme, but just very in-depth. It takes a lot of work to do, to commit to get some sort of release out of you for dopamine and stuff, but you still find enjoyment out of it. So I found things like reading a book, for me personally, is a very daunting task. I am not a good reader or anything like that. But I do find that if I complete reading a whole book and stuff like that, I feel extremely good about myself afterwards, because I know that I suck at reading. I am not good at this. So when I've made the commitment to read an entire book, whatever it is, maybe a graphic novel or whatever, a picture book, then I feel really good about myself, because that is something that tends to happen very little. Same thing with carpentry related stuff. I do a little bit of projects with woodworking and stuff from time to time, and again, it goes back to kind of how I am with playing guitar. I am not good at it. I am sincerely not good at it, but I find that when I'm able to accomplish what I set out to do, whether or not it was successful or not in terms of like what I was building, I find that I'm very satisfied with my work afterwards. I've had plenty of project now where I've gotten to the point where I could commit to a plan for it of what I'm doing, and then I can see it through, and then I can enjoy the fruit of my labor after the end. But I definitely feel like I definitely feel that emotional high when I finish the project and it works out. It executes completely as what I thought it did in my head. So that's I can remember the feeling I did when I made like a bed frame for a camper van I did, and I was like, oh fuck yeah, that was awesome. So yeah. Anyway, and then another one's just any and this was more of a general one, just kind of completing any work that you might have been doing, a project or whatever that was kind of long-winded and stuff. Same thing with this. It's just something that takes a daunting amount of time to commit to and everything, and just seeing it through to the end, and then finally having that moment. And this could be more with like homework. It could be like with completing an essay or something like that. Though I tend to feel not as good about a project when it's required of me rather than where I'm personally invested into it and stuff. But that's up to you to decide. So yeah. So anyway, that was just a couple examples and stuff. So in conclusion, just what I was saying before, it's important that you identify the highest and lowest sources of your dopamine triggers, so that you can kind of determine what is kind of good and what is healthy, what is not, and everything. So I think things that are going to be in your S tier might be things that, they're not healthy for you, or it could be. It just depends. It depends on how you want to rank them and stuff. But that being said, it might be good to consider doing a dopamine detox in case you feel that you need to reset your brain so that you feel better about completing the things that are healthy for you rather than going after the things that are not. And the thing that I am challenging myself to do, and I would pass on to you to challenge yourself, is to swap out those. Try to, when you find you're in a place of where you need some sort of some form of escapism in terms of like what you should like, because you're having either a bad time or like that, and your instinctual presence or is to go after something that's just gonna be a high value dopamine release. So it's like going after sugary foods or something like that. The challenge I make for myself, and then I would pass on to you, is again, identifying what those triggers are, acknowledging what those triggers are, and then maybe swapping them out for something that's, maybe it's going to be a little bit more effort involved, but it's going to have a similar or, amount of dopamine release for you. So let's say, just for example, let's say, okay, I felt really like shit today. I went on a bad date. So, okay, I'm going to go watch porn or something like that, or my instinct is to go watch porn because it's like, oh, okay, well, that's instantly gratifying for me or whatever. But after doing this and identifying what triggers I have, I can kind of stop myself and be like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm going to wait. I'm actually going to swap this out for playing guitar because I know that I enjoy music so well, and I know that I want to do this instead, and I'll still feel good afterwards. It's just I'm not feeding into this negative habit of dopamine release and stuff. And it could be the same thing with watching YouTube. It could be the same thing with watching TV or movies or whatever, or playing video games. Swap it out for, okay, I'm really upset about this one thing. Okay, I'm going to go cook something. I'm going to go cook a healthy meal and just, I'm going to cook the shit out of this fucking filet or whatever, so I can, take this out on that. But at the end of it, I'm going to feel really good afterwards because I've made a really nice, healthy, salmon filet or whatever. So now that is the challenge I have for you. I hope this was helpful for you guys. Again, I would just challenge you. The first step I would think is just to acknowledge the triggers that you have and stuff, and work towards what you can do to kind of combat the ones, improve the ones that you know are that you can identify as the healthy ones, and lessen the ones that you know are going to be the bad habits for you and everything. So that's all I got to say. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Yeah, I'll see you in the next video.